The film begins with a spoof of 2001, A Space Odyssey, in which the narrator demonstrates that the Barbie doll has been theirs since the birth of girlhood. Random young girls are observed destroying their traditional baby dolls in favor of Barbie. There are other Barbies and Kens in Barbie Land, as well as Alan and a pregnant doll named Midge. Among the characters are President Barbie, Physicist Barbie, Dr. Barbie, Writer Barbie, Diplomat Barbie, Journalist Barbie, and Mermaid Barbie. The Kens rely on their ties with their Barbies to survive. The main Barbie goes about her day in Barbie Land, enjoying her life with Ken and her other Barbies. Ryan Ken and Simu Ken are rivals who threaten to beat off each other. The Barbies and Kens all hold a dance party to celebrate how wonderful life is in Barbie Land until Margot Barbie asks whether anyone is thinking about dying, which dramatically deflates the mood. Later in age, Barbie begins to notice weird changes in her life, such as her heels now touching the ground and her skin developing cellulite. The other ladies tell her to go see Weird Barbie, who gets her hair chopped, her face scribbled on, and she performs splits. She tells Barbie that there could be something happening on in real world with the girl who plays with her, as she must go out to find out what it is. Barbie escapes Barbie Land, joined by a Stonewall Ken. When Barbie and Ken arrive in the real world, they get into a problem when Barbie strikes a guy who smacks her buttocks. Barbie rushes off to find her owner when they are released from jail. Barbie sits on the seat and has images of a girl joyously playing with her until the girl becomes less cheerful, prompting Barbie to cry. She then turns around to discover an elderly woman seated next to her. Barbie tells her she is gorgeous, and the lady confirms. Barbie is aimed to a middle school girl called Sasha, based on her visions, who claims she no longer plays with Barbies because they embody unattainable beauty standard. Meanwhile, after Barbie and Ken split up, Ken ends up learning about patriarchy and views it positively. Barbie eventually ends up at Mattel, the firm that manufactures Barbie. The CEO discovers her existence in the real world, which is overheard by Gloria, Sasha's mother. Barbie winds herself in an employee boardroom where the CEO attempts to persuade her to return to a life-size box to cure everything. She almost accepts before changing her mind and fleeing. After picking up Sasha, Gloria comes across Barbie, who is being pursued by the CEO and his staff. Barbie then discovers that Gloria is to blame for the present existential problem, since Sasha has become more melancholy around her recently. Barbie leads Gloria and Sasha back to Barbie Land, while the Mattel boys try to find a method to find her. When the three arrive at Barbie Land, they discover that Ken has carried the patriarchy there, dubbing it Kendom, and has now indoctrinated the other Kens into behaving more obnoxiously and bro-like, forcing the rest of the Barbies to become more obedient to them. This carries over into the real world, when Ken's transformation into Barbie's ideal house, a Mojo Dojo Casa house, begins to sell well. While Barbie attempts to persuade Ken to reconsider, he rejects since he now feels more appreciated than he did before traveling to the real world with her. Barbie suffers from depression and believes she is no longer perfect as she was created to be. When she instructs them to go home, Gloria and Sasha grab her car and depart, before Weird Barbie arrives to pick up her companion and add for the pressed Barbie place. Gloria and Sasha are surprised to discover Alan has stowed away with them on their way out of Barbie Land because he's sick of the Kens takeover. A crew of Kens is erecting a wall to prevent anybody from entering or existing Barbie Land, and Alan decides to combat them all by himself. Sasha then thinks that they should return to Barbie Land and assist Barbie because Gloria cares about her, and she shows her support for her mother's plan. Gloria and Sasha returns to discover Barbie, along with several discontinued Barbies and Kens in Weird Barbie's fantasy house. Gloria visits Barbie, who is still despondent, and delivers an impassioned lecture about the expectation placed on women in the real world. This helps break Barbie's gloom when some of the other Barbies come to their senses and organize a plan to persuade the Kens to rethink their belief. Each Barbie attempts to stroke their Ken's egos before leaping on other Kens to make them jealous and fight each other, ending in a dance-off and Ken's poignant "I'm just Ken" ballad. Ken approaches Barbie and says that he feels defined by his connection with her since it's Barbie and Ken, not just Ken's. Barbie apologizes for making him feel that way, but she also does not want to be recognized throughout Barbie Land as merely his girlfriend. The Mattel boys arrive in Barbie Land just as the spirit of Barbie's creator, Ruth Handler, comes to talk to her. Ruth assures Barbie that while human stories must come to an end, hers does not. She urges her to take control of her faith and holds a hand. Barbie shuts her eyes and imagines herself as other women and moms before making her decision. Barbie later rejoins Gloria and Sasha in the real world, now known as Barbara Handler. They leave her off to a facility where she attempts to schedule an appointment with a gynecologist. Subscribe and click the bell icon or the ghost will visit.